emphasise that both safeguarding teams have a duty number. So if you're a care provider and something has happened and you're not sure as to whether you need to raise a safeguarding or not, I would always encourage you to ring through to the teams to have that discussion as opposed to not reporting. So I just wanted to make that really clear to everybody. Okay, so when you're raising a safeguarding concern, what we're looking at is the 3-step test. So within the Care Act, it's outlined that if a person has needs for care and support, is experiencing or is at risk of abuse or neglect, and that they're unable to protect themselves from that abuse or neglect, then that means that they meet the criteria for us to be treating the issue as a safeguarding concern. So I think it's just worth having that at the back of your mind when you're making referrals. And I say that because sometimes, whilst there may be some concerns about an individual, if they don't meet that 3-step test, it might be a different pathway that we need to consider. So it may be that we need to consider a care review, some police involvement. It may be that we need to instigate an ARM, so an adult risk management plan, where an individual has capacity but is putting themselves at risk. And I know there was a session yesterday on the ARM, but there's also a lot of information on the Safeguarding Adult Board. So it's just to think about that criteria when you're referring in. My colleague Maggie, who's in the room, is going to be looking for any hands. So if anyone does need to stop me at any point, then obviously please do raise your hand. Fantastic. Okay. So to raise a safeguarding concern, at the moment, the current process is that you raise this safeguarding online. So obviously, Northants website for the north of the council, the north of the council.
That's really is where we got to before.
Oh, Julie, is Julie back?
It's going to let us in. I knew it.
Oh. Okay.
Hello.
Sorry, I can't see anybody because I've got this screen sharing. Can I just ask everyone to mute themselves so we don't get the echo? Fantastic. Okay, so what we're talking about is raising a safeguarding concern online. Obviously, if the concern has taken place in the north of the council, it's not where the individual lives, it's where the alleged abuse has taken place. So the north of the council would constitute as Wellingborough, Kettering, Corby, East Northants, this area. The west of the council would be Northampton, Daventry, South Northants. So obviously, depending on where the alleged abuse took place, go onto the relevant website to raise that concern. The online referral form that you complete is something that we call an SA1 form. So if you hear any communications with colleagues from the local authority and we refer to the SA1 form, that's that original safeguarding referral that we will have received, that you or somebody else will have completed. There is information online about our sort of decision-making framework, which gives you as providers some information to understand what we would feel is reportable and not reportable. But my advice to you guys would be that transparency is always encouraged, because, you know, the decision-making tool could be open to interpretation. And we want to make sure really that you're sharing everything with us, and we're obviously kept updated with what's going on in your services. What I always say to providers is it's better to hear it from yourselves rather than us receive safeguardings from the ambulance, the police, or relatives, third party. We'd rather know an accurate referral of the, you know, the situation from you guys. Obviously, if you believe a crime has been committed, then we would expect that you contact the police as well as raising a safeguarding. And it's really helpful for us if you put that in your referral form. So you let us know that the police have been informed. And if you've been given an incident number or a crime number, if that can be added as well, that's great, because it keeps us all coordinated. Obviously, for any emergency situations, we would expect 999 to be raised. Okay, so what makes a good referral form for us is obviously considering the consent. Oh, we've got someone wrestling. Can you mute people? Thanks. I sound like a broken record, I know. Thank you. So consent for the safeguarding referral. So when you're working with individuals that have capacity to understand the incident that has occurred or the risk that you're concerned about, we would expect you to be letting that individual know that you're going to be raising a safeguarding. Obviously, I appreciate you might work with a lot of people that do not have capacity and they're not able to consent. We would then expect you to have had discussions with their next of kin, relatives where appropriate. So, for example, in a care home, one resident pushes over another resident and they hurt themselves. We will expect that you've notified family, next of kin of that incident. And during that communication, you've also made them aware that you're going to be raising a safeguarding, because that's good practice. That's what we would expect. It's also really helpful to us if you include on your referral form, when you're telling us that the person lacks capacity, if you give us that information and make references to, you know, does that person have dementia? Do they have a learning disability? That's really helpful for us as well. So always consider consent and capacity. Fantastic. Okay, so the actual referral form itself, what we're trying to encourage more and more referrers to do is give us as much information as possible. Obviously, for us, when we're on duty, we're receiving multiple safeguarding referrals. And when it's a really short, sharp version of the event, it's difficult for us to then be assured that the person is safe, to understand what measures you've taken to ensure the person is safe. So we're asking you on that referral form to really pen a full picture for us. So we're asking for some background information on that person, a description of the incident, so any potential factors or triggers of that incident, what action you've taken to ensure that that person is safe, and anybody else that you've informed. So have you alerted the social worker? Have you alerted the police? Did you get the doctor out? If you can let us know all of that information, that's really helpful. So just to put it into context, if we're screening 25 safeguarding concerns a day, and that's just within my team, so that's work in relation to care providers and hospitals, if we receive a referral that says Mary fell down a top flight of stairs, the end, we don't know if Mary's safe. We don't know if Mary's in hospital. We don't know if you had risk assessed for her to fall. So if you can give us a detailed referral that assures us that medical attention has been sought, that actions have been put in place so that nobody else falls down those stairs, then I'm sure you can appreciate it helps us to risk assess our response on that day. So that would be really helpful. And something I mentioned earlier is that we do receive safeguarding from third parties. So if you're able to tell us an accurate version of the truth yourself, if we receive a referral from a third party, it's always really helpful to have that information from you. So thank you. Okay, so I've just given you an example. I'm not going to send you all to sleep. And ironically, Mary is my example, so I must have Mary on the brain. But this is going to be sent out anyway. So if you're in care services where you have team leaders or deputies or other people that also support in that safeguarding process, please do feel free to share this PowerPoint with anybody. We'll get them out to you. Okay. So when the safeguarding team receive the referrals, and just to confirm again, the safeguarding teams who are on the call today, myself and Julie from the West, we only deal with safeguarding concerns that relate to care providers and institutions. So that's when it's alleged that your services are the source of risk in that something happened or didn't happen to protect somebody from that risk of harm or abuse. So for example, somebody wasn't given their medication, or you had a carer that's allegedly been financially abusing somebody. They're the types of referrals that my team would be dealing with. If your safeguarding concern relates to community matters or issues of self-neglect, then it would be the allocated community teams, the front door teams that would pick that work up. So it's I think it's useful to know that. Okay. So when we receive the safeguarding concerns, obviously we're reviewing the information that's provided. If it's really clear that this is an isolated incident, you've taken immediate action to ensure that the person is safe, or it's a situation that you couldn't have anticipated was going to happen. So somebody had a nasty fall for the first time, you wasn't expecting it, there's no information to make you believe that that fall was going to happen, medical attention was sought, family was informed, and some equipment has been put in place. That would give us assurance that you've acted appropriately and you've done everything you can to keep that person safe. It's very likely in those cases that we're going to close down the safeguarding once we've received that assurance from you without progressing to a Section 42 inquiry. If there's cases where it seems that there's multiple partners involved, so maybe somebody's been discharged from hospital raised concerns around maybe a pressure sore, the home hadn't raised the pressure sore to start with, and then potentially there's some concerns about the district nurse's response, it's very likely we're going to open that to ourselves because we need to unpick the different pieces of that jigsaw puzzle. Or if there's cases where we identify that the same theme or risk is continuing within your services and you haven't been able to remove that risk, then it's likely we'll open that inquiry to ourselves as well, so that we can work alongside you and try and understand why those risks are not being removed. There are times where the safeguarding concern that you report to us, you are already dealing with that yourselves. In those cases, we would open the Section 42, but we would send out our information, our SA2 template, for you to complete that information. There's a part 2 of this session that hopefully Julie's back in the room to pick up on the SA2 section. So an example of that would be you have a situation where something has happened with one of your care members of staff, so alleged financial abuse, for example. You've suspended that member of staff and you are undertaking a HR investigation. In that circumstance, we would send out our SA2 information to you because you're already investigating that situation. So everything that you're gathering and doing, you would be able to share with us. When that comes in, we can obviously review that and go back to you if we need anything else or we feel that anything else is missed. So in essence, when that referral comes in, we're either going to be closing it down or we're going to be moving on to a Section 42 that is owned by us as the local authority, or that we've delegated to you. Either way, you should receive a screening letter from us that lets you know that the decision we've made. Now, I just want to highlight that if we decide to close something down because you've given us assurance that the worker involved is having training or equipment is now in place, or you've told us why it is that you've reduced that risk, we're likely going to refer to that on our screening letter as a sort of an agreement between both us and yourselves as to that's the action you're going to be taking. If something happens a week or so later that is similar to that incident and that assurance you've given us has obviously not been followed, then obviously we would be looking at moving that to a Section 42 because we'd be concerned that that risk wasn't reduced as we discussed previously. When we send out our screening letter to you as the care provider, we also send a copy to the CQC and to any potential funding authorities. So health, out of county, obviously it's not always us. So I suppose it's to be mindful that they receive that information as well. Okay. Oh, I've clicked all the way through my presentation. That was a whistle stop tool. No, I haven't. So that is raising a safeguarding concern in a nutshell, guys. And that's it really. I can't see, but Maggie's going to look for any hands. So is there any hands or comments from anybody around raising that concern? No. I'm going to come back on the... Oh, is there something in the chat there? Close on the phone. Okay, so that is it really for me in terms of raising that safeguarding concern. Is there is Julie back in the room to go through the external part? Are you back in the room, Julie? If not, I'm just going to go for it. No, a jinxter. We sat together and done this yesterday and it was perfect, I promise you. So thank you everyone for your patience. I can't emphasize enough that we are humans as well. So we have no hidden agenda to be beating anybody with a safeguarding stick. We appreciate that stuff happens in your services. We appreciate that it's difficult times for providers. And I just do want to take this opportunity to really reinforce that we're asking you to report for that transparency and so that we can work with you as opposed to, as I say, beat you with a safeguarding stick. So please do use that offer of contacting us, the duty teams. Me and Julie can share our emails in the chat today. And if there's anything you think we can do from the safeguarding team to support your services, we would be happy to do that. So we would be happy to visit. We would be happy to attend any team meetings. We would be happy to support any training that you're undertaking. So please do take that away from today. I don't think Julie has been able to get back into the session. So yes, we will be sharing the slides, Juliet. We'll be sharing them with everybody. Absolutely, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the slides that my colleague Julie was going to present. So bear with me while I get them back. And what this is, yes, please, mate. What this is the external Section 42 form that you receive. So there's been a safeguarding concern. We've asked you to undertake the Section 42. You will receive a letter from us asking you to do that, telling you when it's due by, and you will receive a form that's known as the SA2. This is quite a new form, and we've recently revamped this form to try and support you to think about all of the information we need to make it a really thorough sort of good inquiry where we're making safeguarding personal and involving the individual as much as possible. I'm just going to run through that form with you because it is new, and obviously if we can get things clarified or there's any queries, then that's what we need to do. So I'll just turn my camera off and move on to that. Thanks, everyone. Okay, hopefully you can all see that, everybody. I'm not really a technical whiz at all. So this is the form that you should receive from us. And again, it's highlighting on here that we should ask for the person's consent where possible or have that discussion with next of kin. I appreciate there's individuals, there might not be a next of kin or the individual doesn't have consent. We would then assume that we are carrying out this inquiry in that person's best interest due to the risk of harm or the concern. So we're just asking you to think about that when you're filling. There's some information there that lets you know that this report may be used as evidence for any criminal investigations, CQC investigations, or if there's a referral made to the disclosure and barring service. So for your information, there may be times where you have evidence to confirm that there has been some alleged abuse involving a worker. That person is dismissed from your service. You put in a notification to DBS to let them know because we have concerns about this person's ability to work in social care in the future. DBS will usually come to safeguarding to say, are you aware of this? What reports have you got that we can see? So it's just letting you know really that this report is often requested and it's stored on our system in terms of the social care database. Okay, so I've already said all of that part. This is a mock SA2, and what we're going to be doing is sending this out to all providers as well. So please do feel free to use this as your future template. Okay, so we're asking there who's carrying out the Section 42, what your role is, when you started this process and when you completed this. We're asking you who this is about, if there's a social care ID or in health a Datex ID. It's really helpful if you can include these because it just helps us to get that on the right person's record. And it's asking you about that initial concern. You will have that information in your screening letter, or obviously if you raise the referral yourself, you will know that. So this is about the discovery of a grade 3 pressure sore, and this was raised by the hospital alleging that the home had been neglectful in this treatment. Now this is a really common referral, and we see a high number of these a week. And what I would say to care providers is please raise these referrals yourself. So if somebody is admitted to your service with a pressure sore, please raise that. If somebody develops a pressure sore and you're not quite sure what grade it's at yet, if district nurses are visiting the service, please don't assume that they always raise it. Please do get the information about what the district nurse is doing, what grade it is, and raise that yourselves. And I say that because then when that person goes into hospital or visits a GP or moves to another home, when that comes through, then it's really helpful because we already know from you guys about that and we already know what you're doing. So just to put that on a side note. Okay. So we're asking you to tell us how you sought the views of the person or their representative. So we would expect you to be having conversations with people that have capacity to let them know you are undertaking an inquiry because of said incident that happened, and you would like to know what are their views on their incident. If it's not possible to speak with that person, we would ask you to speak with their power of attorney, their next of kin, to try and get their views. It's really important for us, and in line with the MSP making safeguarding principles that's happening. Okay, it's asking you then about the person's capacity, if it was a best interest decision, straightforward there. It's asking you again if you sought the views of the person or their representative. So we've just done that, okay. And we're asking you if an advocate was involved. Now, sometimes there's a relative and a formal advocate. That's great, capture that. Sometimes the relative is acting as an advocate. Let us know that. So the alleged source of harm, if you're filling this out yourselves as a care provider, it's likely that this is going to be your organisation. Now, I know sometimes providers give us individual care staff's phone numbers on this part. We don't need those care staff members' phone numbers because actually you're accountable for that member of staff. They're employed by you guys. So within that part, we just require information about your service. Oh, we've got Elizabeth. Have you got a question?
Yeah, just going back slightly. So I often have to fill out safeguardings when the patient's being discharged. Would I then need to call the next of kin to say that this has been raised? Say against the home have raised a safeguarding against us, but because I might not necessarily know that that's already been done, I would then need to check that.
I mean, ideally, if you are able to have communications with relatives, it's really helpful for us to know that that's happened. In some circumstances, Elizabeth, I appreciate you might not be in a position to do that, particularly hospitals where maybe you're on shift, you identify a concern and then you move on, and you might try and ring a next of kin, no answer. So we do appreciate it's not always possible. For care providers, we would absolutely expect them to be having those conversations because it's likely that these relatives are visiting the home, or you're ringing relatives anyway to update them on anything that's happened to that individual. Hospitals are slightly different, but equally, if you've noticed something about that person that came into hospital, I think it is good practice to let the relatives know that it's due process. And that's what I would say, giving that assurance that it's due process, because I know before when families have had conversations with hospitals and they hear the word safeguarding, there was a real that the family felt that almost something was happening in the home that was untoward, and the hospital had to raise it because everything was so bad. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's about having those conversations sensitively and being clear it's process.
Yeah, no, it's more the answering off. So it's when I have to answer the safeguarding, I'm then ringing that relative to say I'm investigating it.
I'm with you, yeah. So
yeah.
Again, I think it depends on the severity of the event. So if somebody was in the hospital and they had, I don't know, a really bad fall, and as a result they had a break, and you're then filling out an SA2 to reflect all of that, then I don't think it would be a bad thing to contact the family to give them that assurance that as a trust or as an organisation, you are actually reviewing the incident that took place and having conversations with them about anything you need or anything they want to contribute as their experience, because actually as an organisation you're only going to learn from that feedback.
Yeah, and then what if, my other question relating to that is, what if it's the actual next of kin that has raised the safeguarding? Obviously they know the safeguarding's been raised, so I had that recently where I was answering one of these and I literally put that it is the next of kin who is raising the safeguarding, so obviously I'm not going to ring him and discuss it.
Yeah, I mean,
if right?
No, I get you. If the next of kin raise the safeguarding, if we've decided we're not going to do anything and we've screened it out because it seems more a complaint, then obviously that's fine, we've made that decision. But if we've decided we are going to open it as a section 42, then I think it probably is worth having conversations with that family to say, you raised this concern, actually, do you know what, the local authority have asked us to look into it, we're going to be doing that, I can see you raised it, is there anything else you want to share with me as part of my investigation? If there are issues where actually there is a complaint and lots of other processes are going on and it's quite muddled, then maybe drop an email to the safeguarding inbox when you receive this to say there's going to be some difficulties with us speaking with next of kin, just want to let you know in case you need to follow up on that part. That's the other option, I'd say, Elizabeth. But you can always ring us.
I think that's what it was. I think, you know, the recent one that's been raised, absolutely, she was within her right to raise that as his next of kin, but we'd had numerous discussions with her about his care at home, and then she still goes and raises the safeguarding, so it was a little bit like, what was the point of the discussions almost? And that was the conclusion that she was happy with. So yeah, I wouldn't have probably been happy to have had that discussion with her.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And there will be cases. There will be cases where there's conflict and other things going on, and actually you've already had lots of conversations and you're not able to de-escalate that. I'd hope that sort of 9 times out of 10 with care homes and day services and things where people are in receipt of care services, those relationships would be there. But I appreciate in hospitals it's a slightly different relationship. We do have really good links with the safeguarding leads in the hospital, and as I say, anyone can pick up the phone and query individual cases with us. That's fine, Elizabeth. Okay, is there another one?
Thank you.
Oh, questions in the chat.
Okay, so see the alleged harm as such and does not give consent.
Okay, so if
are you able to do it as a best interest?
Yeah, so if you're having discussions with a person and that person has capacity and you're saying we're really worried about your partner, he keeps taking all of your money, where's your money? And that person's saying no, it's fine, you know, I'm happy, but you believe that person is vulnerable, has some care and support needs, then absolutely you can raise that and you can put on that referral form that the individual themselves has not consented. Now, if the person does have capacity and doesn't consent to any involvement from various professionals to do with the concerns that are being raised, it may be that as a group of professionals, we need to consider the ARM process, which is what I spoke about earlier, that adult risk management plan. Because if as professionals, we're all aware of this risk, but we can't do anything about it because the person isn't engaging and they've got capacity, then it's likely we would need to follow that different process. But I would say if you're concerned, raise it, because then actually you're not accountable as an individual professional. You've shared the concern with professionals.
Should the service report grade 2 and above pressure roles set a safeguarding?
Yeah,
plan,
so
or just report grade 3?
So there's another query. So grade 3 is the reportable pressure sore. That is absolutely what we need to know. However, if I was a care provider and it was a grade 2 because of something, so somebody's come back from hospital to you in that way, or you're having difficulties getting some equipment, or you believe that the person's conditioning is worsening, I would say pop that in, because it just gives us the start of that timeline really for that person. It's likely we're going to screen it out, but what's going to happen is our system is going to have that intelligence and information from you. And obviously, if it does involve other partners, such as district nurses or equipment issues, we might be able to get some support with that as well. Is that all the questions, Maggie? Fantastic. Okay. So the source of harm is going to be your organisation, if you're filling that out. It's asking you who engaged in this inquiry. So this is people you've contacted, you've involved, anybody that couldn't engage. So sometimes from a care home's perspective, it might be the hospital that put in the referral. When you're completing your inquiry, it's very unlikely that you're going to be ringing the hospital to have some discussions. We understand that. Okay, any meetings that you've had, so that's really useful for us. Sometimes care providers send us copies of those meetings. That's really, really helpful for us. So please do submit any supporting documents, that's fine. Who was involved? It's always going to ask you why the person was not in attendance to these things, and why their views wasn't gathered, because as I said, making safeguarding personal is our principles. So even though it feels repetitive, it's necessary. This is, you know, risks in their life. Any immediate actions that were taken. So in some cases, somebody might have a new bed, they might have changed bedroom, they might only be supported by females. So whatever it is that you've decided at some of these meetings, let us know, because that evidence is that learning and those changes that you've made. Okay, so your risk identification and analysis, it's again, you are the source of risk. You're highlighting the area of concern that you looked into, and it's asking if you identified any additional harm during your inquiry. So it may be that your initial safeguarding concern is about, I don't know, somebody falling out of the bed last week and having an accident. When you undertake your inquiry, you might find out that actually they've fallen out of the bed 3 times previous, and this hadn't been reported by night staff or previous manager or whoever. So let us know. Okay. Did you identify any ongoing risk to the individual? Now, in an ideal world, we want to reduce and remove risk to all individuals that we work with. That's why we do this job. But we do appreciate that some of the concerns that fall under safeguarding, that risk remains. So, for example, with pressure sores, we know that maybe if somebody has, if they're frail, they're bedbound, diabetes, other factors might mean that risk remains for that person. The same with falls. You may put in a falls referral, they might have a Zimmer frame, but if that person's still wanting to be mobile and independent and there's a risk they might fall, unfortunately that risk is going to remain. So if you're answering yes for ongoing risk, that's just about you being transparent and realistic about what you're still going to be managing post this safeguarding. What I would say is that if you identify that risk, we would expect that there's a risk assessment or some form of protection plan that evidences everything you are going to be doing to manage the risk as best as you can. The thing then is, if that incident then happens again, when you report that to us, you can also submit with us your risk assessment or your protection plan that shows you did everything you could. Is there any more questions, Maggie? No? Okay. Summary of inquiry. This is where we're asking you to give us a real everything you've done. So the background of your investigation, who you spoke with. So we've got information from the daughter, information from the nurse, so what you've done. So for this lady, the care home has reviewed her care plan, and they've obviously made changes to the care plan as a result of the pressure sore, notified adult social care. And then your analysis and your outcome. So for any investigation, there has to be an outcome. But if you're conducting the investigation, it would be you that's decided that outcome. So you need to share that with us. So in this case, what the home is saying is they knew this lady had the sore before she went into hospital. The sore was being treated by the district nurses. The lady's daughter knew that she had the sore. It was documented in the care plan. So there isn't any evidence that the home neglected it. However, there was evidence that this information wasn't on the lady's hospital grab sheet, the hospital passport, and there wasn't that communication there. So what the home is saying is, actually, we're now going to update her grab sheet so that if the paramedics come or somebody goes into hospital, we can feel assured that we've already shared this information. It may be if that had happened, the hospital wouldn't have felt the need to raise a safeguarding. So that might be something to think about in homes, if you are able to update hospital passports or grab sheets, and maybe even make reference to say that reported to safeguarding, yes, because then hospitals are going to know that that's already happened. Any actions, so I've already spoke about that. So you've got the outcome and the actions in your inquiry there. We just spoke previously about there might be some risk that still remains. If there is, we're asking you, is a safeguarding plan required? Now, for me, a safeguarding plan, a risk assessment, you know, there's some similarities. We would be happy for you to tell us either or. What the actions are, if there's any actions in a plan or anything on a risk assessment that you must be continuing to do to support that person. And then we're asking you if you're satisfied that this case can now be closed, if that person's desired outcomes were achieved or their family's outcomes were achieved, and if there's any outcomes for that adult. So maybe a referral on to a different organisation to receive some support in something. I don't know, maybe a referral from the community police to talk about a particular risk, a regular meeting with a key worker in a service to support that person to overcome an abusive incident they've been involved in. So anything that's going to be an outcome from that adult as a result of this inquiry. And then finally, we're just asking you to tell us, was the risk reduced or removed? So obviously, in new terms, no longer do we substantiate or not substantiate these concerns. We talk about reducing and removing risk. So we're asking for your view on that. There for us. I think this is nearly it. This is just considering about anybody else that you might need to inform or anything else that you're doing as a result of this. We've got that for your organisation and for the person. And there is an example here of a safeguarding plan if you would like to use that plan. But as I say, you can also attach your own form of risk assessment or plan if that's needed. That is a whistle stop tour from me. I think I've stopped sharing my screen. Fantastic. On our SA2 form, it is a fairly new form, as I say. So if you are ever struggling, do give us a ring. But I think it's about remembering that when we're asking you to complete that section 42, this is an investigation. This is an inquiry. We're talking about a situation where potential harm has occurred to a person. So it's about making sure that you demonstrate that in this inquiry. There's been times where we receive inquiries that are just a few lines, loads of areas missing, and you know that is of concern to us because we need you to demonstrate all of the action you took at the time and that you will continue to take to keep these people in your care safe. Is there any questions on that SA2 form? No. Well, we had lots of questions yesterday, so hopefully I've got better, or you've all gone to sleep with these technology issues.
Oh, I've got a question, Michelle.
Brilliant, go for it.
Yes, the SA2 form, is it in circulation to organizations, or what is going on at the moment? Because I've just got a section 42 inquiry, so I just need one.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we can make sure we get this example to you today if you pop your details in the chat, or if you could let me know where you're from. But these presentations and examples will come out to everybody that's attended. But if you feel you would like this as a tool to support you with your current inquiry, I'm more than happy to make sure we get that out to you today. If you're happy to either write your details or let me know where you're from, and I can scribble that down.
Yes, I will put my email down. I'm from St. Andrews.
Oh, okay. St. Andrews. So that's fine. I can ask my colleagues in the West, Julie, Tyler, I know you're on the chat. Could you send this out to Margaret Mills at St. Andrews today and get this circulated to people? Oh, we've got some other details for that. Yeah, we can do that. We can get this out to St. Andrews. What ward are you on?
I'm not on a ward.
Oh, okay. So we'll just, what's your name if you're happy to share?
I'm just putting my email address down.
Oh, fine. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Thorndale. If a person has recurrent falls but no injuries, been referred to the full team, everything is closed, continues to fall, should we be raising a safeguarding? I would say yes, to be honest. I mean, obviously, if someone's falling 10 times a day, we need to have discussions about how are you going to manage reporting that and how are we going to know about that. But equally, you're protecting you're sharing with us what's happening for that person. And if someone is continuously, frequently falling, and all of these measures are in place, but it's still happening, then I think we need to think about what else can we be doing rather than letting someone fall so frequently. But I hear what you're saying, Thorndale. We do have a very similar case with a gentleman in a different home. I think he unfortunately had 9 or 10 falls in a 2-week period, and we've had discussions with them sort of based on that individual. How can we work together on this? I think what we've done is we've got a sort of joint risk assessment for him, and you're dropping an email to let us know when that's happened, but you are still letting us know so we can record. So if there was a specific individual where it really was reoccurring, then we would work with you to see how we could manage that. But it is important that we still know. Just so you know, all of these emails are fantastic. We are going to send them out to you all anyway, so that's fine. If you don't put your email, you're not going to be missed. We've already got that from when you joined, so you will be getting all of this anyway. I just wanted to make sure someone got it immediately if they needed it for a report.
Yes, I need it immediately.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
I can just see in the chat that I think you started a trend, but I just want to reassure everyone that you are going to get that. Oh, we've got another hand from Trina. Is it Trina?
Hi, it's not so much about the form, it's more around consent, because I'm from Family Support Link and we work with families that are affected by substance misuse. And I think that potentially we will struggle, it could be challenging to get consent for a safeguarding to be raised, because we work with young people as well as adults. And some of our clients are reluctant to have a safeguarding concern raised.
Yeah. We had similar questions yesterday from a group of people that worked with homelessness, worked in the homelessness industry, saying that it was really difficult for them to get consent for those people. And what we sort of said is, if you're concerned as a professional, raise the safeguarding, but tell us on that referral form that you haven't been able to get the consent. I mean, if, as I said earlier, if someone has capacity and they're not consenting to the safeguarding process, it might be that we need to look at doing something else, such as that arm, because what we don't want to do is all have these concerns but not be able to come together or raise them because the person isn't consenting. Because if something was to happen to that person, something very seriously, I think as professionals we need to demonstrate that we've come together to as multi-agency to show that we've tried various things and record that. I don't know if you've had a look before at the ARM information online, or if you attended this session yesterday, but there's information.
I didn't, but yeah, I've looked at it online before.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Because I mean, obviously we invite the person themselves to that process. If they come, fantastic. It's strengths-based. We look at how can we support you with these things we're concerned about? What do you want? It's strengths-based. But if the person doesn't attend, as professionals, we will be recording the risks, what we've tried as professionals to reduce these. And then obviously we have that evidence that we've tried to multi-agency work. So I think the safeguarding consent, sharing that is the most important. We can decide the pathway afterwards.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
No worries. Was there another hand?
There was,
I think it's vanished.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Barbara.
I've got a question, Michelle. I just want to know, do you have categories to say this meet the threshold and this doesn't meet the threshold?
Yeah, so on the Safeguarding Adult Board website, there's a decision-making framework. That's what it's called. You can download it, and that will tell you what we believe to be reportable and non-reportable. So you can have a look at that tool. I suppose what I'm saying is, if as a professional you are concerned and you want to make sure that you've reported that, you know, don't worry so much about that. Just share your concerns with us, and then obviously we can make a decision about if it does warrant our involvement or not. But that decision-making framework is available for everybody to have a look.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for me or Julie? No. So just two other things. So there is a evaluation link that we're asking people to fill out for these sessions. I'm going to try and be clever and open my emails while I'm here and hope that Chloe's emailed me that link. She has indeed. So I'm going to put this link in the chat, and basically if you're able to complete the evaluation, then what will happen is you're going to receive a certificate to show that you've attended these sessions. So I've put that link in there. And obviously that's good for you as an organisation to demonstrate to CQC that you've attended today, to hear direct from the local authority what the expectations were. I think that is it from me. Mine and Julie's details are near the start of this chat. And I just want to emphasise again, if we can work with providers to support or give advice, guidance, we really want to do that. We might be able to prevent safeguardings. We might be able to support you. It's a really, really difficult industry anyway, but with COVID, we understand the pressures have really increased. So we are there. We're not beating anyone with safeguarding sticks. So just remember that. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'll close the session. For anybody that wanted colleagues or people to attend any of the sessions that have happened this week and they wasn't able to get there, these sessions are recorded so that they can be viewed at a later date for that reason, for the learning. Oh, are you able to email the link? Oh, let's have a look and see. Chloe, are you still on the call or not? No, I haven't got Chloe.
I am, yes. I can email the evaluation form link to everyone.
Okay, do you perhaps maybe put it in the chat as well, Chloe, in case anyone else is having that same struggle?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, and what do you know about the recordings, Chloe? Where and how that's going to be saved or distributed or not?
Yeah, so they'll be uploaded to the NSAB website sometime next week, and then I'll get an email sent out to everyone to let them know that they're available.
Brilliant, thank you. That's fantastic. Okay, oh, Barbara.
I still got one question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you know about this CQC notification. When we are doing this SA2, do we need to fill in the CQC notification as well?
Yeah, two separate organisations. So you guys will all be accountable to the CQC to share with them incidents and information about what's happening in your service. So it is duplicating because you tell us and you tell CQC and we tell CQC. So it is duplication, but each organisation are accountable for their own information. So they would still need to hear it from you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it. Barbara, that's your honour. I haven't missed anybody, have I? No. No, lovely. Thank you so much, everybody. Lovely to meet you all. Take care. Bye.